Hey there. So we're back here again, and thought I would, kind of go over, talk a little bit about some Packback questions. Some of this is overlap from the previous week, and then some of it is also from this coming week because I'm doing it on a Tuesday. So some of you are really diligent. It doesn't matter which day. Again, we'll stress that these have nothing to do with like which ones are good or bad. I'm just picking ones off the top that I see immediately that interests me. I will notice that there's a lot of talk about the fires going on, El Dorado fire. I'm sure, a lot of you have been affected by that. And perhaps more dangerously than others. Where I live, it's not like that big of a deal other than it's smoky, it was annoying, it was kind of cool, but can we get rid of gender reveal parties? Like, they were dumb to begin with, and now that we've started, a fire that caused, 15,000 acres worth of damage so far, can we stop, please? Anyway, so some of you, we're talking about, what's going to happen to the people who cause it. Probably nothing, right? They'll probably send a bill, be symbolic, right? But they don't really have the money, they can't pay for it. Now if it's an electric company like SCE or PG&E, they're more likely to be on the toll. That's why we have those power shutoffs anyway, because they can do something about it. These other people are probably going to face fine, but it'll be fine. Second question that I saw was, what about, prisoners who fight the fires and then they're enlisted to help, but then they can't get a job afterwards. So Governor Newsom recently signed a bill that makes it easier for those firefighters to join later on if they so chose. At the federal level, there's still a lot of barriers in place, and it's mainly because, you're a federal prisoner, and you were a felon, and you have a record, and it makes it a lot harder, right? Which, to be honest, is like a big problem of going to prison, right? A lot of times they try to make you better, right? Give you an education, teach you job skills of some kind, and then you can't get one because you're like a felon, even though you have these skills. So it's not unreasonable for some people to turn back to crime, right? So it is a really complex problem. We'll talk maybe a little bit more about the corrections issues later in the course. But until then, we'll talk. Let's see, another question here, right? So these questions are just ones that I picked. This is one from last week and this week. So don't at me if you're like, oh, I don't like it. I'm working with it. We're just checking it out. So we'll pick one question by Destiny Romo, who asks, if the criminal law's main goal is to control the behavior of those who destroy the peace of others, why do some do the opposite? So I guess this question is really asking, why do you think people commit crime, right? Because we know that laws are in place to protect people, property, control, restrict. There is a social component to promote certain behaviors. So why do some people keep doing bad things? And so, I guess it depends on your point of view, right? So some people are really, believe that people are naturally evil, they're naturally good. And so when that happens, what makes them change, right? Do people make decisions like this? Do most people do it because they feel some sort of strain or pressure to be pushed in a way? Do they simply learn how to commit crime? It becomes, appealing. And so because they learn techniques and benefits and pros and cons and things like that, is it simply because the way that buildings and stuff are created are, more alluring, and so that what we need to do is prevent people's natural urges to do so? Are we really, creating a problem because maybe we shouldn't have some things as crimes and we should just get rid of crime altogether in terms of outlawing behavior and focus on other things, right? Some people take that radical view. So I guess you kind of have to ask for yourself, what is most likely going to be the reason why people commit crime, and take it from there, right? So that's actually a topic that we'll cover more, I think, in the next week, where we start talking more about theories of crime and why people do that. There's also a course that I teach as well that focuses on theories of criminal crime and delinquency and bad behavior, right? So maybe you can do it with me, maybe you can do it with someone else. Doesn't really matter, but it might be fun. Then we also have Emily Hernandez is asking, why do people believe that people who commit crimes have some type of mental illness? Is there a way to detect mental illness traits in a person before they commit a crime? So this sort of like one of those things, right? You know, there's some people will say that some people may have some sort of mental functioning, right? You know, maybe they are overly depressed, they're anxious, they have psychopathic tendencies, right? And, there are, cases where people who do commit crime do have mental ailments, right? Some people manage their emotions and mental status better than others. Others don't. Some people have access to resources. Maybe they're aware that there's a problem. Others don't, right? But I guess this sort of gets into a question that is, let's think about society for a second, where we had access. Everyone had universal health care, which is probably not going to happen in this country for at least many, many, many years. We were able to get everyone a genetic test, right? So we knew that you had a tendency to be more aggressive. Maybe you were going to be more unruly. Maybe you had depressive symptoms. Maybe you were more anxious. And we could find this out, right? So we knew you have this family history, you have a genetic marker for it, and based off of what the data tells us, you're more likely to commit crime, right? So we know, like, as soon as you come out of the womb, this person could be a born criminal, right? What do we do with that information? So if we did do that, right, if we could detect it, what do we do with it? In some cases, do we, if you think about something radical, do we divert them into like a training program? Do we medicate them, maybe possibly against their will or their parents' will? Do we ask the person to terminate the pregnancy? Do we shift them in some way? Do we, just keep them isolated from others forever? What is the right answer? And what, could be the best thing to do in that situation? These are all possible solutions. Do we just go on as we were? And, maybe we just like really spend some time like coaching that person and their behavior to do it. It's a really interesting question because almost everyone has some sort of mental quirk, right? Sometimes it runs in families, sometimes it doesn't. So maybe it's just a way of like, dealing with that, and we need to have a more supportive mental health care system to prevent that. At the same time, right, if we don't do that, what else should we do, right? If we had access to this knowledge and we could do something about it, does this mean we should do something about it, right? It's a very Jurassic Park question, right? When they they're making dinosaurs, right? They're like, yeah, we could use frog DNA and then make this, we can make dinosaurs again, right? And the big thing in that movie is like, well, yeah, they figured out they could do it, but they never asked if they should do it, right? And then dinosaurs took over Costa Rican island and like mauled everyone, right? So, maybe sometimes it would be good, right? But for then, I think it is an important question then is that, if we spend a lot of time showing that some theories are correct, and so reasons why people commit crime, we can identify key factors, right? And we know that these are facts about something. What do we do with that information? And how do we make it useful in a way that prevents unwanted behavior, but also isn't like so oppressive that, it harms the civil liberties and rights of other people, right? I think that's a really important question that we juggle as in the policy arena is, if we know this is a problem, how do we go about fixing it in a fair, equitable way that's also effective? So I think for y'all then, it also good the question is, if we have issues with mental illness, we assume that this happens, what should we do about it, if anything? So with that said, we'll sign off on this video. Thanks again for posting the Packback questions. I love reading them, love seeing them, and I'll see you guys later.